Welcome to the HDG Stories podcast, where we'll share our threads of memories, knowledge, experience, and history, knitting all generations into a beautiful tapestry. So please like and share, and be sure to subscribe. Now let's get started.
This is Ellie, and I want to first apologize for the quality of this particular audio. We were in a large open room that I think was the source of the distortion. I keep learning new things. I'm interviewing Gary Pensell on June 8, 2016. The additional voice is his wife, Barbara. This is a 15-minute excerpt from an hour-long interview, and the rest of it is equally as interesting. Welcome, Gary and Barbara.
My birthday, September 26th, 1941.
Were you born here, or
Yeah.
you were born here in Havre de Grace? Were you born at the hospital?
No, I think there was some fraternity house or something, Union or Revolution or somewhere in the vicinity of the hospital. I'm not even sure the hospital. I guess the hospital was. Yeah, but I think at that time there was like a maternity house. It sounded, my recollection, that it was quite common that that's where you went to have babies. Yeah, I think that was. I can't testify on the procedures. I say I was very young.
Tell me a little bit about your family.
I have one sister who's 6 years younger than me. My mother was born in Havre de Grace. Her name was Mackin. Her name was Alice. Her father was Joe. His better-known brother, I don't know his name, but he owned the bar that's now part of Coakley's, the one with the door on the angle on the corner of Franklin and St. John. Yeah, one thing is it was the building all the way on the corner of Franklin and St. John. It's the entrance to Coakley's that they don't use. The doors sitting catty-cornered on that corner. There was a bar there. I understand it had a trough with running water, so you could spit your tobacco right there at the bar stool. And I, again, don't remember any of that, just what I was told.
I love those stories.
But he was apparently quite a character. My father's father, I don't know much about. He was killed when my father was very young in an automobile accident over in Cecil County. His mother, Beulah Wall, I knew her as Beulah Wall. She married a man named Ken Wall. They lived on the alley. She lived on Green Street on the corner of the alley. The house is still there. It was just sold to George Buck's son. She had been a widow. She had a number of businesses. She had a restaurant.
Warren,
yeah. She had a restaurant there when I was very young. I think I remember that. And later on, she had a hobby store on Franklin Street in the middle of the block. I think, what are they selling there now? The guy that sells candy and various.
just for fun? Yeah.
Or no, that wasn't it. Because that was the Sportsman's Center. She was a couple of doors down from that. There's a real skinny, the Lighthizer building, and there's a real skinny store, and then there's a slightly wider store. She had the slightly wider store in the middle of the block. I really don't know where either grandmother was born, but they lived their lives in Havre de Grace.
What did your mother's father do?
He was a fisherman. He used to have a boat and did the shad fishing and various fishing things and kept the boat down at what's now the Havre de Grace Marina. That was
They lived on Pearl Street.
But it was the corner of Ontario and Stowe. And you went down that hill and around the corner you were on Pearl Street. But their house was, if you were going down Ontario toward Pearl, it would have been on the far left corner. The house is still there. My grandfather drilled some holes in the steps and put oarlocks in them, and that's where I learned to row.
Really?
I rode those steps many miles.
You saw lots of the world.
Yes,
right?
I did, right there.
What a great idea. What a way to keep you busy.
So that was the recollections of my early life. But we lived on Ontario Street at that time until I was about 11, and that house was 634 Ontario. When I was around 10 or 11, built a house on Chesapeake Drive where Brad Cogan now lives. I pretty much grew up. I did grow up, until we got married. That was 704 Chesapeake Drive. That was next door to the house that Hebditch built.
That was near Krieger's.
Near Krieger, the well-known, much feared
Fourth grade teacher.
She came after I had passed the fourth grade, and she and I became friends, and we used to stop and see her a couple of times a year up till near the end.
That's that little house that had the little arch gate. There was like a little secret garden. Do you know that area at all? Carriers and Angerts. Montgomery's. Keep on going. It was like the fifth house.
It was on the other
Freehold's
side of
Mary's family.
South Adams Street. Went to school in Havre de Grace through the ninth grade, and then I went to McDonough in Baltimore, military school.
What did you do for fun?
I had a lot of friends. There was a group of us. Ernie Moretti was in my class. Eli was in my class, but he wasn't so much.
He wasn't so much fun.
He wasn't so much fun. But there were a group of us, many you've never heard of. I mean, those were the days when you left the house after breakfast, and if you wanted lunch, you came back. If you didn't, you had to be there for dinner. And then after dinner, we'd go out. I remember when the railroad cut was there, Ernie Moretti lived next to the cut, and we'd go up there and we'd play kick can and just kids' game.
And then you pulled boats yourself.
But boats were always an underlying part of my life. I mean, I joke about ruining my grandfather's steps, but my father had the Friendly Oil Company, and it was where the Tidewater Grill is now. He owned that property. I subsequently bought it.
Fuel oil. And it's not the Friendly Oil Company now, is it?
Well, no, not anymore. He moved out on the highway, and it became Phillips 66, and now it's Arrow Oil or something. But anyway, he was on that dock. He always had boats.
He was in the Navy. His father.
During World War II, and he got sent way far away for his duty. He was assigned to Fort Bainbridge.
Oh, I bet he loved that.
But he taught seamanship.
He taught seamanship teachers. They had a boat dock down on the water, and he worked down there. Right before the end of the war, he was going to be shipped out. He got as far as the West Coast, and the war was over, and he came back. So he essentially spent his service at Bainbridge. But he always had boats, and they were tied down there at that wharf. We always had rowboats, and many years I had no idea what age I was, but I wasn't allowed to untie the boat. But I had real long rope, and I'd row that thing back and forth. And then eventually I could untie the boat, but I couldn't. That cove there, Tidewater Grill goes out, and the dentist's office, that cove, the water used to be deeper in there.
Before the seaplane dock was there and everything.
Yeah. That area. Then I could row around that cove, but I couldn't go around either point. So my horizon kept growing, and moved to Chesapeake Drive. By then I was 12 or 13, and we would on occasion row from the city park up to the oil company, which was behind the movie theater, to go to the movie. That was a pretty long row. These are 16, 18-foot bushwhack boats. They wasn't like they were rowing shells. But then eventually I got a 3-horsepower outboard motor. But anyway, my whole life was around progression of boats. That, and I was fascinated with cars. I always worked. I always worked weekends. I remember I worked at my grandmother's hobby shop, 50 cents an hour. I went by a sleeping bag at Lighthizers used to be the Boy Scout outlet, and they had a sleeping bag there for $16, and I wanted one, which meant I had to work 32 hours. I was at an age where I didn't think I was going to live for 32 hours. I thought I was never going to get to $16. But I did, and I bought the sleeping bag, and then I wanted an English bike, and the guy selling them was Roger Stottlemyre in my grandmother's house right there. And that was $54, but I might have been making 75 cents an hour. But it wasn't long after that I was looking forward to the day I could drive. So I started working and saving for a car quite a few years. And when I turned 16, I bought with only a little help from my father. I didn't have all the money, but I bought a brand new Chevrolet.
Wow.
But I worked all the time. Weekends, holidays.
He worked at the oil company, delivering oil.
Well, later on, I drove an oil truck, but I would go in bad weather. He put 2 people on a truck to pull the hose through the snow and all that, and so there was always work there. And he didn't pay me any princely sum, but I just worked and worked and worked, and I bought a 1958 Chevy Bel Air.
How cool is that?
And
then he was the king of the road.
King of the road, yeah. A few years later, I bought Corvettes, but I've always been had been sort of a car freak and worked a lot of time to buy nice cars. So that was pretty much my youth.
And then they started building Marina when he was.
Yeah, I was in high school, I think, when we started. I made very early.
His father had gas stations up on Route 40 and Was that before the oil company? Is that how it
No,
started?
it's part of the oil company.
So it was the oil company first, and then the gas station.
Well, he started opening gas stations, then he signed other people up to build gas stations. He'd supply them with the oil and gas and power and batteries. All that. So he had a pretty nice oil business. And then we went to Port Deposit, the boat dock that he worked at. The Navy declared it excess property. I remember he said, I'm going to go up. He said, that's where I spent several years in the Navy. Let's see who buys it. Well, it turned out he bought it. Then we decided to build a marina, so we built what became then Port Deposit Marina. In the process of doing that, we accumulated construction equipment, and then Bartle Silver, who was president of the bank, Havre de Grace Banking and Trust. Bartle B-A-R-T-O-L.
Spencer Silverman.
He was president of the bank. He became a good friend of mine. He was a friend of my father's. He and Frank Maslin were two of the top guys in that bank, and they both became friends. But anyway, he owned a tomato cannery. Most of the marina was one
Not
time.
Senator.
Oh, okay, in the
Hello.
marina, in the marina itself. In that
So he wanted us to come put some piling in a few slips so he could
This is
help
Bartle.
pay the tax. This was after the tomato canning industry was gone, and came down, and in the course of our contact with him, my father bought that, and that's how the marina started. So that was built. The marina was started. We rented the first slip in 1958, all the way at the other end of the marina, best I can recollect. And so the marina was being built. This was the last part through the late 50s and very early 60s.
So all of this was done in those 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
5, 6 years?
5, 6 years.
Wow.
But we bought all this property from that building where Fritz is now was Rose Furniture. It was two parcels. It was the tomato cannery, and then this came all the way over here. And so we built the marina, and I graduated from high school. The marina was not completed. We were still doing construction work. I was fascinated with that. I went to college, went to Lehigh. I didn't really like it. Didn't see much point being there. I'd race home for the weekends to work. So that lasted. And then I met her in Ocean City in 60, what was that, a 63 Corvette that you wrecked?
Yeah, I did. I about put a ding in
You
it.
bumped. So that 63, met her, and I guess it was a year later, or most of a year later, we got married, started having babies, and then Vietnam warmed up.
We were married.
We were married and had babies, so
Yeah.
I was exempt from the draft, and I was never in the service.
And he
Retrospect, it
dropped
might
out
not
of
have been a
school.
bad way to spend a couple of years,
He
but
dropped out of school.
Yeah, I dropped out of
He was
school
doing
before we
2.5
got married.
years at Lehigh.
Yeah.
And he was far too busy to run a construction crew.
Yeah, I had other
Just
things to do beside that.
It was
And,
important stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So then my father never took a real active role. I mean, he was the man. He owned the place, and I worked for him. He was never took a very active role in running the marina.
Well, he was doing the
He
oil
was doing the oil
still.
company, and he was working with Phillips Petroleum, and that was expanding, and he was perfectly happy to have his boat here and come down, start
Had a
around,
nice
shout a
big
few
boat.
orders.
That they
and,
cruised to take to Florida.
What would he have done if you hadn't left school and come home to work?
I guess he would have found somebody. I don't know. I mean, he was not a very good delegator. Might have been a problem, and we had some bitter, loud argument, constant. And I can't carry a grudge, and he didn't. 5 minutes later, he's fine. I'm still just seething.
He was not an easy man to be around.
He was a tough, and he would pop off quickly, and one day I quit. I said, that's it. I'm out. I sent off a couple letters, feeling out for other jobs, and some local people had offered me jobs. One of them was running a bulldozer because I was pretty good at it. I didn't think I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing that. But anyway,
And you were married with kids.
Yeah, we were married with kids.
When he's quitting.
I think did you quit before we got married or after?
I don't remember.
It was
Maybe both.
It was
But there came a time when I said, I either want to buy this place or I'm getting out of here. So it started. I bought business
He agreed to sell it.
pieces. So I bought the business, but not the real estate. I paid him rent. That went well. A few years later, we made a deal to buy him out. Any rumors you've heard that my father gave me everything, you can
It ain't
tell.
true. Not a nickel.
Those are
But no, I mean, it was arm's length. I mean, I can't say that I tried to get top dollar or anything. I did pay him and the appraised price.
Mhm.
And we went on for several years there. We were a very big sailboat dealer. Several
Gary
years.
really built the business in a whole different way. They were using small fishing boats. The river was full of fish. It was Pennsylvania Dutch. The little guy, they would come down from Lancaster, and they were mostly smaller power boat for fishing. And then that in
1972, when we had the big flood,
Agnes.
when Agnes went through, it wiped out the
It
fishing.
just scoured,
Really?
scoured the bay. I mean, it literally
Wow.
emptied the grasses, so there were no fish, no ducks, no nothing, and so all the little fishing.
They went on down the bay. So we were facing vacancies, or at least not quite sure where the marina was going to go from there. And I had a abiding interest. In fact, I had a sailboat. I had a 36-foot wooden sailboat here, one of only 2 or 3 in the old marina at the time. So we got involved selling sailboats, and we went on to become, I think for many years, we could have been the largest sailboat dealer in the United States. We were the largest dealer for the largest builder. I never knew how that stacked up, but we were a major sailboat dealer, and that's what we did.
So then it changed to, filling the slip with sailboaters, and it was Philadelphia, Wilmington.
Yeah. More recreational than business.
Well,
worker
it
bees.
wasn't.
Yeah.
You were selling $50,000-$100,000 sailboats.
But the other, for years, the powerboat people, the fishing people that really got the marina going up until 1972 were from New York, Harrisburg, and Lancaster. And as soon as we switched to sailboats, the center of that demographic was right over Philadelphia. We're dealing with not the hunting, fishing, central Pennsylvania type person. Not that there weren't some of both, but you could see the center of our universe was Harrisburg, Lancaster, and then it became Philadelphia, on into New Jersey. And we did that, and 10 years or so ago, I sold the business to my son. Unfortunately, the recession came along, which killed the sailboat business. So it's been difficult. We've got vacancies. We've had vacancies for the past 2 or 3 years that we hadn't had in 40 years.
It's across the bay.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say it's
It's not
unique.
We have, percentage-wise, we're in the better group. Yeah, there are places that have 50% vacancy rate. So the business is changing. I don't know what the future holds.
Recreation's changing.
Yeah. So recreation's changed, and our business has changed.
Thank you, Gary and Barbara. The full-length podcast will be available through our membership site at hdgstories.com. I hope you have a great week until we chat again.
We hope you've enjoyed today's HDG Stories podcast. We encourage you to subscribe. We hope you will share with your friends. Till the next story, we invite you to visit us at hdgstories.com.